when people have sort of left
Mm-hmm.
out
Okay.
of earshot, he will go to Baba Yaga and James and say, obviously, you're going to be protecting the house and the occupants. However, I would suggest, if you have not considered it already, to keep an eye on Eric and his mother. There is more, I think, behind them being here than merely not wanting to live in the village. Not that that is possibly a factor. However, previous experience with Iskra's mother was that usually to escape such trappings, people are willing to go above and beyond. She has not. There is something that has made her reject, at least on some level, Anderson. Yes? Eyes, ears, brains open?
I agree, Piper. Also, the risk of living in, well, imagine being attacked by a beast every night. Especially with a son.
I agree. She's protective, but not that protective. Does that mean that she knows the beast will not take the child? Too many questions.
If the beast is only targeting former companions, then the child is indeed safe.
Do not observe at the cost of your own safety, but it would be beneficial to see if such an opportunity came up.
I am more than eager to get a look at it. From how it sounds, it is very similar to an old friend, shall we say.
Right. Iskra.
Yes.
We shall depart as soon as we are able.
Excellent. Is there anything you would like to do before it becomes dark?
Well, two things. I want my bloody tea.
All right, Adam will bring the two of you the tea. And he actually brings back 4 cups and then is surprised to see that Iskra and Piper are gone.
They had some business to attend. As
Ah.
promised, though, I will pay you. Now, I don't mean to be deceptive, but this is from the Queen, as in the Queen's Lind.
Sure, I can change it somewhere. And he's happy enough to take any kind of money. Money's money.
Is it a shilling?
A shilling's a thing. You can give him a shilling.
You will give him a couple shillings then, 2 or 3.
And he will happily pocket them and get back to cleaning the windows, which was his task.
James will pour a tea in his cup and Baba Yaga's.
Is there anyone in the mansion you think that we should talk to?
Well, the only other one I can think of is her, but I don't believe she's very open to communication.
The only people you haven't really spoken to for sure are Satu, and you haven't talked much to Christian. And you can talk to either if you like.
Well,
Are they still over at the couch?
Satu and Eric are still sitting over reading, yes.
James will fill up the other 2 cups and head over.
And Eric looks rather pleased to see the two of you walking over because, again, you're very exciting. You're not normally here. And Satu remains fixated on the book.
you are Satu, correct?
Yes, that is correct. Do you require anything?
We just had a couple of questions, and since we're going to be guarding you tonight, we wanted to make sure that you're doing okay.
I suppose I could try and answer questions. I do not know what information I would have that would be useful to you.
Well, you can start by telling us why you're here. How did you come to be in this mansion?
Anderson invited me and Eric. He felt badly for us, I believe.
Why did he feel badly for you?
We were living in poverty. I was attempting to work as an assistant cook, but I was not any good at it. It was not what I trained for. I was a dancer when I was younger. I had met Anderson years before, and he reconnected with us, and I believe he had the money, and he felt as though he would do a good deed in pulling us up from poverty.
Tea will be served at
I
12
accepted
o'clock in the
because
dining room, my lady.
Eric can live a better life here.
So you believe his motives were purely selfish?
I could not speak as to his motives. You would need to ask him.
Well, let's be honest. If they were selfish, no one would go about saying that.
I could not pretend to know his thoughts.
Surely there are other people living in poverty. Do you know why he chose you?
Because we had met previously, I suppose. Again, you would really need to ask Anderson.
All right, we will do that. And how do you like living in the mansion?
It is better for Eric.
Do you not fear that the beast will come after Eric?
Anderson has assured me both that it has no interest in us and that he can protect us. I do have my concerns. However, I am trying not to frighten my son. And she looks down at Eric, who, on the contrary, seems just fascinated by the whole idea of a monster that is coming to the house every night, but
Well, he seems very, very frightened.
he does not realize the danger.
Now, would either of you care for tea? This is getting quite tiring holding.
Thank you. And she'll take the tea and put the other cup down on a table in front of Eric. And she will look at the both of you quite seriously and say, Anderson has assured me that we are safe here, but I would like to know if at any point you feel that that is not true. If it is not true, then I will take Eric and leave. It matters not where we go. As long as he is safe, I would do anything for him.
If we feel we cannot handle it, we will tell you.
Then you have my thanks. And she's going to go back to reading stories to Eric. Is there anything else you wish to do before the darkness falls?
Not that I can think of.
We could talk to Anderson or Christian, but I think that's probably best left for after the
All
night's
right.
events.
Then, as the night wears on, you head outside with Christian and Anderson, who are finalizing the defenses for the night. The last visible sliver of the sun has just set, and you stand outside in a cool breeze. You hear a few servants nailing planks over the first floor windows. Anderson and Christian are setting up their rifles while smoking a pipe. The scent of burning tobacco is carried over to you on the breeze, but you notice it is gradually being covered by an even more pungent smell. You are hit with the nauseating stench of rotting fish mingled with salt, and then notice a massive figure has made its way to the gate. It looks like an amalgamation of pale, bloated flesh, driftwood, rocks, shells, and other ocean debris. It seems to stare at the mansion for a moment, then roars and rushes forward. Anderson and Christian immediately leap to try and defend the mansion. It is the first exchange, and players go first. You are in a fenced-in yard. The creature has made its way over the lower gate. You are in a fenced-in yard of a large mansion. There is a large creature running at you. Anderson and Christian have rifles, and they are set to defend the house. You are basically like in a garden area.
I would like to try and use my magic to slow the creature down, trying to entangle it in the foliage of the garden.
You need a 7. You have a base of 4.
That's a failure. I should have gone for something else. Anyway. Vines from a nearby, I'm going to say pumpkins or gourds of some sort, come to life and shoot out of the ground and try and entangle the beast's feet, or what appears to be its feet. But it charges straight through them, ripping the vines out of the ground. It has a trail of vines behind it, but it is not slowed in any way.
As the other beast starts storming through the front gate, James will take off one of his gloves, revealing his hook, and press it deep into his arm and raise it up into the air. And a couple seconds later, the ground starts to shake, and they hear a almost ghostly wail as they see the ghostly pale white beast charge through the front gate, straight towards the beast, going for me. Like, it's obviously going for me, but the beast is in the way, and it will attack the beast for 1 wound. It leaps up on its back and starts tearing at it, and then it almost seems to phase through the beast onto the other side, and then James will go for the nearest whatever that he can hide behind.
All right.
And it's up to you if it break line of sight.
You can, if you want to, break its line of sight. So there are like bushes you could duck behind. You can go around the house, whatever you would like to do.
He will leap over to bushes, like in a whole bunch of bushes. And as he does that, it seems to stop dead in its tracks and kind of melt.
All right. And Christian and Anderson were very noticeably alarmed and confused by the appearance of a second beast of some sort, but they quickly shake off their confusion once it can no longer see James and disappears, because there's still one beast there that they need to focus on, and they're both going to try and fire at it. Christian's shot goes wide, but Anderson does manage to strike it, and it does have no reaction. It does not seem to feel any pain. It doesn't make a sound or flinch, anything. The bullet just sinks in. While it has no reaction, this has also done 1 wound. And as the 2 shots ring out, you notice from the corner of your eye someone smaller than you expect is peeking around the corner of the house, and Eric has wandered into the scene, seemingly trying to get a better look at what is going on. He is closely followed by Satu, who has run over, horrified that he managed to get out of her sight, and snatches him up, turning to go back into the house. Anderson looks horrified that Eric has come out as well. And the creature, upon seeing both of their horrified reactions to Eric being put in any danger, seems furious. It lets out an enraged roar, and it is charging forwards now towards where Satu is holding Eric. Player action.
I want to try and turn some of the plants in the garden into projectile spitting plants.
Okay. Trying to inflict a wound?
Yes.
All right, that'll be 1 soma. You need 7, and you have a base of 4.
That is a success. Baba Yaga puts her hands to the ground and is going to focus for a moment. And the plants around the garden, along the path, sort of rise up into the air, still attached to the ground, growing bigger and larger. And a sort of bulb appears on a bunch of them. And that bulb grows bigger as well. Then the bulb splits open, revealing almost like a mouth shape. And then it moves in such a way that it's able to create a spitted out projectile of sort of a greenish acid. And these plants along the sides of the path start spitting on the giant. Where the acid hits, part of the, I guess, flesh of the creature starts to melt, and steam comes off of it.
Hey.
But it does not slow down at all as it continues moving, which is the downside.
All right, I need Baba Yaga and James to make a defense check. Your target number is 7. All right, you succeeded?
Yep.
I also succeeded.
The creature, while charging towards Satu and Eric, stopped and, while pausing for a moment, 3 large shells that seemed to be part of its makeup have fired out of it, launching in 3 different directions. One was aimed at Baba Yaga, one at James, and one at Christian, who managed to just sidestep it, and it crashed into the wall behind him, shattering into lots of little shell pieces.
For Baba Yaga, she quickly puts her hands to the ground and creates a cocoon-like structure of vines around herself to deflect the shattering.
All right.
Just as
And-
James finally untangles himself from the rose bush he leaped into, a shell will start flying at him and he will leap back into the rose bush, once again getting caught in the roses. Like the thorns. That'll be my disadvantage, being stuck. I don't know if that's movement or whatever.
Kind of create a small hole in the vines and peek out, make sure it's safe and safe-ish.
There is still a rampaging monster, so she may decide how safe she feels it is. The monster is headed for Eric and Satu.
Yeah, she's gonna try and slow it down again with vines. That is a success.
All right, so how are you slowing down this creature?
So, as Baba Yaga is hiding in her vine cocoon, she peeks out, sees that the giant is still going on its rampage. She's going to shoot vines in its direction, and they will wrap around its wrists and ankles, or whatever the equivalent is of that for this creature, and temporarily hold it in place. Could that give James an additional chance to hit it? Like,
It could, were it not for the fact that one of this creature's powers has activated. And as the vines wrap around it and you try to restrain it, it seems to almost dissolve. And what looks like a wave of water crashes over the ground to an area around 30 feet away. And then the water reforms into the same creature.
well, that was unexpected.
James will dig himself out of the rose bush and rip his beautiful long coat. And he will just straight charge at it with his sword.
All right. You get a base of 3 because you're good at weapons, and you need a 7.
I failed. James charges at it, but as he tries to slash at it with his sword, he cannot even get it dug deep. The shells keep reflecting it off.
All right, and the creature is going to try swiping at James with one of its huge arms. Please make a defense check. You need a 7. You failed?
Yep.
All right, so this creature swipes down at James with a massive arm in which you can see rocks and shells, and it has quite a powerful force behind it, and the swipe knocks James off of his feet, and he flies a few feet away, crashing into the ground, and he suffers 1 wound.
James, who is not discouraged, but as he flew, he dropped his sword. He will charge with his hook. Perhaps the hook will have a better time digging in. Success! As he gets up, he will dig a shell out of his arm. Realizing his sword is nowhere to be seen near him, he will take his glove off once more and charge at it with his hook. He will throw himself at the beast and with all his might wave his hook into it. And he will dig it in deep.
And as you do this, the creature once again seems to dissolve into a flood of seawater. But this time, not into a wave that crashes over the ground, just into a rush of water that begins to sink into the ground, leaving behind it debris of shells and pebbles and seaweed. And Christian and Anderson look slightly satisfied, but not as you might expect, relieved. They do not have any attitude of this being finished.
Well done, James.
Not my proudest performance.
And Anderson will walk over and he'll clap James on the back and say, "Good job. Forgive my... Well, I'd be more enthusiastic, except it'll be back tomorrow."
Have you ever tried just breaking line of sight of it?
I take it you're referencing your performance with the... I don't even know what that was about. I was going to overlook it since it didn't really interfere with what we were doing. No, I don't think that would work. You can hit at this thing forever and it never reacts. Eventually it does that, but it always comes back. And Satu seems to have put Eric down, and she's come over to presumably give Anderson a piece of her mind about something. She seems frustrated that Eric was able to get out of the house despite it being barricaded and her being assured that all the doors were locked and he shouldn't have been able to do that. Eric, for his part, is looking with great interest at some of the shells that have been left behind on the ground.
James will go over to Eric.
I've seen these shells, you know. They're from the cliff.
You know where that cliff is?
I do. It's not... Well, it's a little bit far away, but it's not that far away. I'm not really supposed to go there, because my mum says it's dangerous. But it's really interesting because they say... Well, I don't know. I've never seen her. But they say that a sea fairy lives there. Way, 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 way down under the ground, there's caves at the bottom of the cliff, and in the very middle of them, there's a sea fairy.
Interesting. You'll have to tell my friend about it.
I've never seen her, but I think I've heard her.
Please don't come outside. You saw the thing. You got your glimpse.
did see it. It was really big. I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. And if you wish, Eric will give you directions to the cliff.
I would like that.
However, before you make your way to the cliff, it is time to switch over to the other half of the party.
So Baba Yaga will approach Christian and Anderson. I had a few more questions for you.
And what's that then?
This creature was enraged when it saw Eric. He is not one of your companions.
Couldn't say why. Look, I'm not in the thing's brain. I don't know what it wants or what it's doing. Isn't that sort of your job? I never asked for you to come, but if you're here, you might at least figure out that sort of a thing.
Anderson, why did you bring Eric and his mom here?
Give them a better life.
How do you know them?
Look, someone important to her died during the war, and I was there. And when I heard what was going on with her and Eric, I've got the money. Invited them here.
Who was the person who died?
It's not. It doesn't really matter.
I think it might.
Not my place to say. Not my story. And he looks a bit annoyed more than anything. Not as though this is somebody he cared about that died. The whole thing, if anything, seems to him to have been a bit of an inconvenience.
Can I use the listen to my words skill?
If you wish.
Yes. Does Anderson genuinely want to protect this woman and her son, or is he...
Yes.
Okay.
He wants to protect them.
And, like, he cares for them.
He does.
Good. Okay. I can see that you care very much for these two.
I've said what I'm willing to say on the matter, and if you can't accept that, then perhaps I don't need your help after all.
Does Christian look like he wants to say anything, or is he, like,
Nope.
totally loyal to this guy and
As
not
far as
gonna-
you can tell, completely loyal.
Okay.
And he will follow Anderson back inside. Satu will take Eric back inside. She's scolding him the whole way for managing to slip out of her sight and find danger when that was the very last thing that she wanted. And you two are left alone in the garden.
Eric is quite a brave child.
A foolish child. Anderson is hiding something.
You're just figuring that one out.
No. I'm not willing to break ties with him just yet, but
Well, I did find something.
go on.
Eric recognized the shells. They were by a cliff, he said. He said that there were rumors of a sea fairy living at the bottom of the ocean near there.
Well, that is something at least.
All right. And as you two make your plans to head to the cliffs, we are going to cut to the village of Sunsval, where the other two were sent.
So on the way, before
Mhm.
we sort of left, he would have said to Iskra, I want you to put your bestial nature to work. Anything that you notice is in unusual tracks, broken foliage, things that should not be as they would be. That wolf-like scent that you so, and he taps her nose, can use. Let me know.
And she nods solemnly and says, "Yes, I will do that."
And then we will set off.
All right. And
And if
as
nothing
you
happens,
Nope, nothing happens until
we
you
will
get there.
arrive. Yeah. Yep.
And as you enter the village of Sunsfall, you see a charming little seaside town. The houses are colorful and the people are cheerful. Niels is well known in the village as he has donated a lot of money to those in need, and in return, they often give him help due to his injuries. You are directed to a small red brick house and are surprised to see the door sitting wide open.
I will rap gently, gentle rapping upon his chamber door.
Upon the open door. And what you hear is quite possibly not what you are expecting, but as you begin to knock on this open door, I think that's probably unusual.
Well spotted, my friend. And Piper will jump into the room, looking for the source of the problem.
Two men are in the house. One, you can tell, is probably Niels because of the injury you have heard described. The other, you assume, must be Hans, the man Anderson sent to protect Niels. But he is not protecting Niels. Rather, he is raising his pistol for a second shot, clearly hoping to finish the man off.
Don't do it, Hans.
Player action.
Iskra! Attack!
And she looks back and forth between the men, and assuming she's supposed to attack the one holding the gun and not the
That's
one
who he pointed at.
not the one bleeding from the arm, she will launch into action. And I am going to. Normally, as the GM, I'm not supposed to do any rolls, but I'm going to treat it like she's being a player character and just do the rolls as one would from her character sheet. Okay, so she needs a 5. I'm going to say she gets a 3 because she has a descriptor talking about fighting with teeth and claws, and that's what she's trying to do. And she rakes her claws across his face, which is going to cause him to shriek in pain and drop his pistol. And he also receives 1 wound. It is now the other player action, because telling her to do something was not your full action.
And Piper leap forward and try to smack him.
Okay, you need a 5.
No.
No?
So he leaps forward, and being careful of Iskra, though, he cannot attack in his normal abandon that he would. And there's no clear opening, so he plays it rather cautiously. But as the gun has been dropped, he feels much better about letting it continue a little.
All right, and Hans, for his turn, is going to go for the gun, which has clattered across the floor to the other side of the room, and he's going to pick that up. And despite the fact that it is the two of you attacking him, he is going to aim the pistol once again at Niels.
Piper will stand there, and he goes, "Enough of this already." And he spends a soma.
Okay.
And he goes from... So he's leaning with both hands over the flute.
Mhm.
And he's just sort of standing there looking at him. And then the next second, he is standing there with the pistol in his hand, and he presses a button on the side, which is the mag release, and drops the magazine out of it. My ability is I can take something from any NPC.
Yes,
Maybe
you can.
PCs, but I think it's NPCs specifically, but I'd have to check. But anyway, whether they want to give it to me or not.
He looks confused, and he turns to look at his gun, now in Piper's hand, and he turns to look at Iskra, who has his blood dripping from her claws. And he turns to look at Niels, and he proceeds to head over to Niels and begin to try throttling him with his hands because he is determined. And Iskra is going to act again, and she is going to try and get in between Niels and Hans. But she fails. She is attempting to pull Hans's hands off Niels' neck, and she cannot get in between them because, well, she has some very sharp teeth and claws. She is still not as strong as an adult. So she is tugging, not with any great effect, at Hans' coat, trying to pull him off of Niels, and it is a player action.
Success.
Excellent. What you gonna do?
He's going to step forward and bring his cane down across his back with a loud thump, inflicting a wound.
You deal 1 wound. Iskra is going to make her second attempt. I guess Niels is just not able to really do much. He's being choked, and he was shot in the arm. Okay. Iskra manages to get a good grip on Hans' arm with her claws, and in trying to yank him off of Niels, she gouges a couple good cuts along his shoulder, which causes him to gasp in pain and release Niels' neck in a bit of shock, and she has dealt him another wound. And for his part, okay, Hans is looking around sort of desperately, trying to decide if he wants to get something to try and continue his attempted murder of Niels, or if it's better to flee. He's in quite a bit of pain, and he's sort of stunned.
Nope. So his weaving on the spot by being stunned is somewhat disconcerting. And Piper, although he's dropped the magazine out of the gun, there is still 1 round in the breech, and he does not want that to go off. So he still has to be a bit careful how he does it. And the one-handed swing does hit him, but doesn't hit him hard enough to inflict a wound.
All right. And
But Iskra can...
Iskra's going to, and she's going to spend Soma to get the additional success she needs rather than rolling for it. And she is going to sink her teeth into his arm where she had already scratched it. And this is the final straw for Hans, who is not unconscious, but he's done. And he's just going to kind of sink to the ground and sit there, panting and clutching at his arm, trying to stop the flow of blood, which Iskra has caused a great deal of. And Niels is, for his part, sitting on his bed. He is bleeding from a gunshot, which luckily hit his arm rather than anything more vital, and he is wide-eyed and rather panicked looking. The combat is over. Hans has suffered all his wounds. He is not unconscious, but he is not ready to continue attacking. He's just done.
Greetings and salutations to you, sir. Step forward with the cane, shove Hans into a chair.
Hans is just sort of glaring at you while clutching at his bleeding arm. Niels is looking rather shocked, but he is going to gather himself and say, "Thank you. Thank you very much. I never thought he'd actually any of them. I didn't think they'd go that. I suppose I should have known better."
At one point, I would like a full sentence out of you, but for now, do you have any rope?
And he gestures sort of to a cupboard over in one side of the small house. I've got a lot of odds and ends over there. And Iskra will
And-
run to have a look.
Yep.
And she will return with a length of rope.
And we shall tie hands up.
Okay.
Let us know when this is too tight, and make sure it's too tight.
And he doesn't say a single word. He just sort of glares at you. And Iskra is sort of looking at him, and she says, "I'd say I'm sorry I bit you, but you were trying to kill him first."
This is Iskra, by the way. She is a wolf from the forest. One of
She
the
grins.
rare, hairless, or not quite hairless, but low hair variety. However, the viciousness is still very prevalent. I would not suggest you anger her.
She nods solemnly. And Niels is clutching at his arm as well, where he is bleeding. And he's sort of scrabbling around and grabbing some of the bed sheets next to him to press against the wound.
Now, this is an interesting situation we have here. Your friend Anderson did indeed send us to check on him, pointing at Niels, and said that they had sent you to check on him, which is making me think that they did not expect you to try to kill him, because they wouldn't send us to check on him and you if they suspected that.
Hans says not a word. I could bite him again.
I'm entirely okay with that.
Iskra bites him again, and he slightly yelps, but he continues his stony silence. I don't think it helped.
I wouldn't say that.
Niels, still looking rather pale, and he'll say, "Well, I would say that if he, well, I'm sure they probably did. They did know because they all know what I know."
Again, okay, let us start from the top. I'll get to you, sir. Since he is playing Stum, what do you have to say, Mr. Niels?
That I know why he wants to kill me.
Yes. I've gathered that much from the incomplete sentences that you have thrown in our general direction. Why?
Because
you know something. Yes.
Yes,
What do you know?
I know what they did. Well, what we did 6 years ago. And I know why the creature wants us dead.
Say this is progress, but I'm not entirely sure it is. Is there a stove, kettle, tea?
Yep, there's a kitchen.
He starts to make tea. Seems James is starting to get to me. Go on. What exactly happened 6 years ago that this mythical creature of unstoppable force is now unleashing itself upon your former company?
Well, the creature, it's Enar. It has to be, and we killed him,
A spirit.
I suppose. So we were all in the same company, and we were stationed in a small town in Finland. We were Karelians. Do you know what Karelians are? The Karelian army? It's a very religious branch of the Swedish army, and very strict, very rules focused. Enar, he was one of us, and he fell in love with a dancer in the town. And when we were told we had to move on, he didn't want to leave her, so he deserted. Anderson found out about it, and he was angry. It was all against the rules. He shouldn't have tried to be with the dancer. He shouldn't have deserted. So Anderson said we needed to punish him.
Desertion has long been punishable by death from the ranks.
This was different. We killed people. Yes, we killed people. But Anderson was angry. He took it personally somehow. We cut off one of Enar's legs, and while he was still living, threw him into the ocean.
I see.
I knew it was wrong, and well, once all of this started happening, I knew it was Enar, and so I wrote to the council, and I was going to. I wanted to confess to. I don't know to who, to the church, to the army, to the council, to someone, to say what we did, and they all said we had to keep it quiet. He paid us at first to keep it quiet, and I went along with it. I shouldn't have, but Anderson, he said never to tell anyone. And so they knew that I was going to, I suppose.
He was probably correct.
Who?
Anderson. My understanding of the military is that desertion is the most punishable of all because it's the thing that hurts them the most. And nobility, such it is, generally seems to go along with such practices because they like to have their toy soldiers. And toy soldiers that think for themselves or desert is not a particular good thing for them. If it was merely
Execution is one thing, sir. Torture is another.
I am not disagreeing with you, sir. I am merely saying I would be surprised if the nobility or generals or military particularly cared.
It was not his death they would object to, it was the manner.
It could be a slap on the wrist for Anderson, depending on the individuals in charge.
I could not say. There seemed to be something more to it for him. The reason the anger in his eyes was over something more than desertion. Soldiers desert every day. You cannot be that angry at all of them.
No. Did this dancer know of his fate?
I do not know. I certainly did not tell her.
Is it possible she suspected?
I could not say. I never met her.
Really?
Really?
You have not been to the manor?
What do you mean? I do not know. I have not been to the manor. I mainly stay here. I do not get out much. And he glances
Then I can
at
enlighten you on one point. The answer is yes, he does. And she came from a small village. She is also not particularly impressed with Anderson, as much as Anderson wants her to be impressed with him. I indeed would say she was a dancer, but I cannot remember if I was there when that conversation took place. So,
You weren't.
ignore this. But I am starting to suspect that one of the missing pieces has been that he may well have brought this individual from the village to his manor.
If he has not told me of it. He and I do not particularly get on. He calls me a coward, and
Yes, he does.
I think him a bit of a pompous fool.
Yes, he is. And who carried out the execution? Well, is it an execution? At least,
That was what he called it, but that wasn't.
no, they usually do the actual killing, not the torturing. Was Mr. Hans here? And gives him a bit of a jab.
Yes. Hans, myself, Christian, Anderson, Jacob, and Wilhelm.
Ah, some of those are dearly departed, yes?
Yes, that is why I sent the letter. When I realized it could be connected, I was already feeling as though I should have spoken sooner.
Now, the question I have is why now? Why has the beast returned? And also, why did you contact the Order now?
After the first 2 deaths.
But you feel that they are irreprehensible, that they deserve their fate, yes? This creature in
No,
front of us.
We were all wrong. We all. I shouldn't have listened to Anderson, but that doesn't mean they should have died like that.
He's still trying to save your life. And taps hands again. Imbecile.
I never really thought they'd try and kill me. I knew Anderson wanted to keep his secret above all else, but I didn't foresee this.
Well, you are all in a bit of a bind. I do not know what my companions have done with the beast. If it is a rageful, vengeful spirit, they are most difficult to change their ways. And he rubs Iskra on the top of her head.
She, for her part, is, despite the fact that both of the other individuals are wounded, she doesn't seem to be that stressed by any of this. She's more just kind of interested. Did enough killing before that she's probably fairly desensitized to that.
Stopping the beast, destroying it may be particularly difficult. Having it stop its raging path. Justice. But the only justice could well be the rest of you against a wall for a firing squad from the military that would be possibly interested in keeping its own face. That's rather complex to convey to the spirit. Although, if the woman is who I think she is probably the key.
I have told
And
you
the
all
child.
that I know.
Do you have a magistrate in this town?
Yes, I suppose so. We're a small village, but someone has to be in charge. What is your intention?
This one needs to be locked up for attempted murder, assault at the very least, until this mess can be sorted out. I do not want him roaming around causing any more mischief.
If he does, I could bite him again.
Yes, but we might have to bite someone else.
Okay.
But if not, you're more than welcome to bite this one again.
She considers it. And Niels will say, if you can find anyone else from the village, I'm sure someone's heard the gunshot by now. I'm sure we could arrange for him to go to the magistrate. I would like a doctor, very much so.
That was my other thing. Is there a doctor, or a man of medicine, or a woman of medicine, as it seems, in one of the other towns we were recently in?
Yes, there's a doctor. As I said, I have told you all I know, but I have always suspected there is something I do not know about the whole thing. Anderson was furious. The rest of us, sure, maybe we felt a bit betrayed when he deserted. It's not what you do. It's not, going against camaraderie and your duty and all that, but Anderson's response was nothing I've ever seen.
I am starting to suspect that Senor Anderson had eyes for the lady also.
Possible, I suppose. I never went to see her dance, but all the men that did said she was beautiful.
Hmm.
I never saw much in ballet myself, but I guess that was why they went.
Of course.
And a villager can be called over. There are some people sort of hanging back a little bit. They heard gunshot and they're not quite sure what's going on in there. But if somebody,
Here! Now!
yes, yes. What? What is it? What happened?
Who are you? I don't care! I need a doctor and the magistrate.
Yes. Is someone dead? We heard a gunshot.
No. They are
Oh,
not dead. We
good.
have 2 wounded.
Right then. I'll be back. And off
Why
he runs.
dost thou stay?
He leaves. To someone calling out after him.
Nope, just when they come. His wounds can wait. His cannot. He needs to be locked up.
And the doctor begins tending to Niels first. A magistrate starts organizing with some other villagers that once Hans has been certified fine to take away and lock up by the doctor, that they will do so. And they assure you that they can keep him locked up until whatever needs sorting out has been sorted out.
We will send someone. Please do not tell anyone that you have him.
They look a little bit confused, but they agree.
Come, Iskra, there isn't a moment to lose. And like 1960s Batman and Robin, we shall run from the room.
We'll run all the way back to the manor. It's a day's journey. Off we run. All right. If you wish to do an interlude here, you can recover any soma because it is time to swap back to Baba Yaga and James, who are on their way to a cave or a cliff.
The Broken Tales RPG is released by the World Anvil Publishing, starring Ghost as Piper, SPG as James Henry Hook, Shadow as Baby Yaga, Emily is the Storyteller. Sounds and music by Sirenscape.com and Epidemic Sounds. You can find us at critfail.com. Oh, quite possibly. Something... There was a rather quiet character and one that was unsure of his station in life. Quite a good storyteller, however, though. I shall stop measuring my own crap now.
All of our other games are just books in the library here.